straight ones are always difficult.
There you go. Temperatures today nudging around 21 Celsius into the balmy 22 we had yesterday. And you've seen some riders, for the first time in Europe anyway, starting to douse themselves. We've got temperatures here that would bless a summer's day in Paisley, I can tell you. What's the maximum it gets up to up there, Brian?
It sometimes gets double digits.
Got a big grin on his face now. It's almost a pride thing. But yeah, 22.
It's not about the weather, it's the banter.
It is, as you can possibly tell. And also the rather fetching textiles design. Anyway, 45 kilometres to go. Nearly at the crest here. Oh, he didn't. No, he didn't. Well, that's punishment enough for him, I guess. You know, Chavez comes back and says, "See what you could have had."
Well, not thinking about it, so it just goes to show, I think, Movistar thinking of the stage. That was the bigger prize rather than potentially that mountain prize. So I think he takes 1 point there, and that means that there'll be 11 points of a difference with only 13 to go. And I think we are definitely going to see some action on this next first category climb.
Well, that may have been a giveaway. Exactly that. So Movistar today, and if it is to be them, Enric Mas. Yeah, why not? Geska, with his luxury beard, is doing a job here, and Pernstein is, quite frankly, just glad to be out of the wind for the first time in possibly an hour. Looking back, you can see that Groupama as well, despite the fact they had Bruno Amirai, as was, up the road. He's no longer there. So yeah, and look at the swelling ranks as well around Jonas Vingegaard. He's got most of his team at his disposal, Brian. 2 in front of him here, and 2 indeed up the road.
Well, they only had 6 this morning. So with Kreuzwick and Attila Walter in front, and having looks like a Lime Reza and Sam Oman with them as well. So they have to be content so far with the way they've ridden today. They've actually put the pressure on all the other teams.
12 seconds only is Mauro Schmidt away from successfully joining this group, which is very good work by him, I must say. Descent time, and well, the battle plan of winding them in has gone awry, but we're going to start to come to these little peaklets I was telling you about. 4 peaks to deal with before we actually get to our next category 1 test. All uncategorized, and I think we might actually take a turn to get to them. Let's wait and see. Beautiful road, this. Double check up on the inside, and Guerrero really pushing on. Chavez, Kreuzweig, Guerrero with just the 1 point, which, as Brian was saying, it doesn't look like that's his target. So in that case, he'll be dropping back, one can only assume, on the category 1 test. And if that's the order, why on earth would he try and assemble too many points over the climb that we've just taken? Chavez is at 19 points in that mountains competition now, so he's found quite a few. I guess he's got an interest possibly in finishing him up in that competition. There's modest gains for him. He'd like the stage win, I think, Chavez. I think that's his battle plan.
Stage, yeah. Everybody looking at the stage here and potentially moving up in the general classification as well. But Mauro Schmidt has said it was kind of now or never. He has to get on, otherwise he's expending a lot of energy, and it's been a big effort to get where he is now. But we're on these rollers. We will be hitting this kind of first category climb, and I really expect Landa time then. But unfortunately for him, if he drags, and I think he will drag Vingegaard with him, that Vingegaard has 2 teammates sitting in front.
Just wondering whether he was beyond the gear there. Couldn't understand really why he wasn't pedalling into the descent. But 8 seconds. He's also got an aero hole being punched by the bike on the rear of the pack in front of him. He's also got a bow wave for the camera bike in front, behind him. I think that might be the commissaire coming up to the camera and saying, do you want to back off just a little bit? because he's got double assist, Brian. He's got the air being pushed behind him, and he's got the hole in the air being punched by the camera bike. There's the security bike, I should say, that's just headed off to allow him some space. So now he's got a bigger task. And maybe I shouldn't have said anything on his behalf. He's going to get in.
Yeah, at the bottom of this small climb here. He's done well getting across here, because Arietta and Burgado, they just went popping at that climb there. We heard from James Knox thinking it might not be suited to Mauro Schmid. Well, he's done a good enough job getting here for the first time, so he has to kind of hang on now.
Excuse me. Chavez just pushing on here, and this is a little bit of disquiet because he doesn't feel like he's been given a turn, and he hasn't been given a turn, to be honest. So he's kind of helping himself. I'm just trying to remember what his publicity shot reminds me of, but anyway, who it reminds me of, possibly a very young Michael Schumacher, bless him. Minute 22. 40.7 kilometres from home, it started to fracture. The man who bridged over to the breakaway up front, Mauro Schmid, has kind of sailed through, and it's forced a few questions to be asked of those who are part of this. And Chavez just sick to death of doing all of the work, and now he's got to do the work for himself and Schmidt by the looks of things. It must be towards the end of his resources. Guerrero pushes on. That's Kreuzfeit behind. Attila Valter has just eased out the back of this. I'm not quite sure whether... I would expect him to have enough to push on Valter, but it's not his job today to be part of a breakaway. It's to offer up his back wheel to Jonas Vingegaard, and we are just approaching a place where Vingegaard could actually have a go, and that is our Category 1 climb that remains in this day, the Itzua climb, and that is a proper launch pad. And if you can place a couple of riders over the mountain, one of whom is the Hungarian champion, the other is Steven Kreiswijk. That's two very strong riders to help you. And here it is. This is the chase that we've got at the moment. It's Simon Geske and his beard at the front, working for Izagirre ultimately. You can see a few others just starting to sniff at it. And this is UE Team Emirates, working for Brandon McNulty. They don't have Mark Hershey, unfortunately, anymore. Or, of course, Mark Soler. So it's all in for Brandon McNulty today, one would imagine, as the bikes get called out. And that chase is not a sterling one. In fact, it's eased a little bit. So who's going to break out of it? You feel that Vingegaard is probably going to be that person. He's got two riders with him, two up the road, dotted up the road, I should say. And in fact, at a gap now from Chavez and Schmidt, who are pushing on. Guerrero, possibly Kreuzfeit included in the chase for the time being. Whistles a go-go. These are the little knolls that I was telling you about that they're having to deal with. And when we come off them, they really are quite quick, aren't they, some of these little descents. So that's the first of the four that we've got to deal with before we actually get to our climb. These guys still engaged on one of these non-classified tests. It's wearing terrain, Brian.
It is. You look at the speed of the peloton now, 1.5 minutes, but I have to say that Jumbo-Visma's riders in the breakaway, Kreuzwijk and Attila Valter, are struggling a little bit, especially Valter. I think he's been dropped now. He was the best placed at 1:42 over the lead, but he's still in front. He still can offer a bit of assistance to Vingegaard. If the racing does start, Kreuzwijk is determined to kind of hang on to the other three riders, but I have to say that Chavez is looking the strongest. Mauro Schmid, wow, he came across this gap and is riding very well, but there's a lot of fight. You can see Valter coming back. He knows he has to try and stay here, but it's not easy for him.
No, it's not. But I also think that his mind is behind him rather than up the road, and that has an impact, Brian.
Well, as long as he stays here, it keeps pressure on the other teams. If he gets dropped, then EF Education, they're in a very good place here. They have got the best placed rider in the general classification. So it's important that Attila Valter stays in this group, especially with Chavez on a good day. Yeah.
So here they come into town. Very much looks like a skiing area, doesn't it? They're taking on another climb. they have a long descent then before we get a double little peaklet. It's one climb, but it's in the shape of an M, so it's got a valley in the top of it, if that makes sense. And then we'll take on the Itzua climb, where I think that's where Vingegaard will indeed press go, and we'll see how he manages, and indeed how these guys manage as well. Chavez has found himself, he's been extremely active throughout this entire race, Brian. It's great to see, but I just hope he gets some kind of reward out of it, and it looks like he's getting frustrated by a lack of help here.
Yeah, Mauro Smith has just made a big effort to come across. Guerrero is just thinking about, ducking and diving. That's his characteristics. We see him doing that so many times. For Kruijswijk, and especially Attila Valter at the back there, it's just staying here and make sure that they don't overextend. But Chavez is on a good day, and he can't let the others get into his head. He started today at 1:57, now 1:54, courtesy of the 3-second bonus. But this doesn't help a little bit. I know you want the others to help, but it does look as if Chavez, especially when the road goes up, seems to be really strong, stronger than anybody else in this group. Attila Valter at the back, the Hungarian champion, is kind of starting to struggle a little bit. So they're just riding over the top. This is helping Attila Valter and Jumbo-Visma, because if Attila Valter is dropped, then it forces the hand of Jumbo-Visma to start riding behind, because Chavez is here.
Chavez just dropping back and asking Valter politely whether he can do a turn, and the flat hand karate chop on the top of the hoods there clearly said, no, I'm afraid I can't. Just over 90 seconds, that's all, but it's been a margin that's been a lot closer than that. In fact, they've found just about a minute since the last Category 1 test where the gap was coming down. Unfortunately, I think that it's a recalibration here for Mikkel Landa. He's just going to have to start thinking about following the wheel of Vingegaard and hoping that, something nice might happen courtesy of that pairing a little bit later on, because he's basically shredded his team, Brian, and they didn't have the effect that they had hoped.
Yeah, it's put a lot of pressure. The fact that Kruijswijk and Valter was in this group of 12 heaped tremendous pressure on Bahrain Victorious. They've done a good enough job holding it about a minute and a half, but I would think they've gone on to this first category climb. I think Landa's the person that has to do something. I think Enric Mas will be there as well. Jon Izagirre will do something, but it just means that the Vingegaard, the race leader, will have two riders in front.
Well, I don't know what he said to them, but could have been just a Vamanos Muchachos, but who knows. Suddenly the pace picks up. It's a descent. He's like, what, you're not even working on the descent? Suddenly they do. Minute and 27 with 37 to go. So they've got a long descent now. It's going to go on for about 4 kilometres, 3 maybe. And then we'll have that little double kicker. They're going to roll straight through on the descent, I believe. That intermediate sprint. It'll be a false flat, but taken at high pace. Little double kicker, and then we get on to the Itzua climb, where we think it's going to explode behind then. Itzua climb beckons. And here we are, we come into town. This is that long descent I was telling you about. Well, not overly. 3 or 4 kilometres now remaining of it. And there's an intermediate sprint at the bottom. Is that Schmidt who's just left him behind?
Yeah, I think he descends a lot quicker than the others.
Certainly does.
Because it was on that descent he actually made up a lot of time and come across to the 4 that were in front. Well,
he shoots into town here. Lovely ramp, I must say. Nice smooth road surface for them to deal with. Doesn't look like we're compromised overly with old infrastructure, which is bedeviling the roads of Britain at the moment, I must admit. Manhole covers rattling all over the place. Anyway, stop whinging about that. Minute and 20, 70 kilometres per hour, zooming into town on what looks like a billiard table road surface. The roads, even in the mountains here, not heavy at all. Look really, really nice rolling. 35 to go then. So our intermediate sprint beckons, Brian. They're going to shoot through that, take this double kicker, and then we are climbing a proper Category 1 again.
Yeah, and Mauro Schmidt, he started today at 1 minute and 40, so he'll take 3-second time bonus by the looks of things. So putting themselves right in that.
Here we go then. Our intermediate sprint unwinds at in about 1,500 metres, I believe. We're not catching great sight. We're not being provided with accurate pictures of these intermediate sprints, despite the fact that I think they're of magnified importance. Oh my goodness. He really is going for it, Brian. Is this his escape?
Well, he is. To place himself, 140 in the general classification. James Knox said maybe not a day for Mauro, but he seems to be riding strong, and this is forcing the hand of Jumbo-Visma a little bit now. 17 seconds behind. He just kind of rode off the front in that descent, and what Mauro Smid will want to do is try and get a bit of a buffer, and he could be having a minute 20, a minute 30 before that final climb, which will spark a reaction. If it had stayed together, that had to spark a reaction from Landa, but now that Mauro Smid is alone in front, I think Vingegaard has to think about doing something in this next climb as well.
Kern Farmer are absolutely desperate to at least get some publicity and remind everyone that they're actually in the race. Haven't really seen too much of them, I'm afraid, save for one in the break on day 2. And now they're trying to shake the rattle as these guys roll away. But I think they were probably expected to do a bit more than that, to be honest, in this race, at least at the beginning. But that is really accents how feistily every day has been fought for. Here is your intermediate sprint. There's your chalk line. So 3 bonus seconds for this man, and he is really head down and going for this. This is admirable by the Swiss, Brian.
It is, and now puts him 137 off the overall lead of Jonas Vingegaard. 24 seconds he's got in the group behind, and he's got a good enough buffer. So Chavez takes another 2 seconds, so that puts him 152 off the lead. Kruijswijk takes 1, but he's well down in the classification. So it's kind of swift. The pendulum is swinging a little bit. Wouldn't say there's huge pressure on Jumbo-Visma, but it was going swimmingly well for them. Now that Mauro Smid is in front, he's going to find it difficult on this next first category climb, but so is everybody. But I'm expecting something from Enric Mas, David Gaudu, Landa especially, but Vingegaard as well. Well, the Swiss, of course, got very animated about Mauro Schmidt, calling him the next Cancellara. He's got some work to do to get to that status, but nevertheless, doing fantastic. He, of course, won the Coppi Bartali. Amazing this year, and had a very good run in the Tour Down Under, where can't remember where he finished, to be honest. Was it close to the podium? 5th. Apologies, and thanks to Pro Cycling Stats. Mauro Schmidt, fantastic prospect. Only 23 years of age, don't forget, and he comes from Bulach. Well, at the moment, he's going like a bullet. Off the front and entertaining us, and that is exactly what you need. 24 seconds he holds now. Well, clearly there's no pictures from downstairs, because they wouldn't be showing you this architecture by way of bragging, I wouldn't have thought, but anyway. Here he is, and it's a margin now, an enhanced one. Big ask to go up a Category 1 test, but he climbs extremely well. And these are those who are in his wake. And there is Attila Valter, Kruijswijk also just starting to struggle a little bit. Chavez, after calling for action, he got it, but unfortunately, Mauro Schmidt produced a bit too much. I think he probably would have liked to be honest, but was not to be. Meanwhile, these are those grinding little knolls that I was telling you about, Brian. These are serious. Yeah, this is climbing out of town. This is the start of the first category climb now. So Groupama, with some numbers in front of David Gaudu, is now starting to ride at tempo now, and the gap will start to come down. But good effort from Mauro Schmidt. It gives him a little bit of a buffer. 116 on these kind of shortish climbs. I think it has to kick off here. I think Vingegaard has to think about potentially doing something as well. But Landa, Gaudu, Mas, would be the riders that would be thinking about it on this climb.
Yeah, we're not quite on the climb itself. These are those little kickers that we were telling you about. So the little risers. And then we will get to it soon enough, because as soon as we've dealt with these brace of climbs, then we're in the Zua climb itself. 4.1 kilometres. 9% as an average, but Brian, we're going to be hitting 15s and 16s on this one.
Yeah, we are, and we're hitting the climb now for the leader, but even just coming out of town in that little bit of kicker, you could see that the damage was being done by Groupama riding on the front.
So they're downhill to the foot of the climb now, after that little double peaklet, which, I don't know, it's certainly nasty, wasn't it? And we start our climb. I'm still not sure we're actually on it yet, or whether we've got to go down a hill again before we get there. In fact, it looks like indeed that's the case. Here we are. So just down this little descent, and then we finally do join the climb, and this is it. So there will be no downhills within it. 4.1 kilometres, 9.2, 13% they are saying, but if you look at the red zones here, we do nudge up towards the 15. I think 14 is where we are enjoying the suffering of these guys who do it for our enjoyment. Let's see. So a real wearing approach, I think you might say, before we even start this one, which will, of course, define the day. Well, they've had a couple of kickers as we climb out of town, leaving Ibar. We'll be coming back, of course. But this man is now upon the climb proper. And it is the Itzua climb. And it's the one that defines the day. It starts off in a reasonably benign fashion. It's 3.5, that kind of percentage. Then slams into 9. It's an average of 9 over the full reach of it. But it does have 14% ramp, more than ramps, really. In fact, a couple of kilometres in total will be around the 14% margin. So it's not easy. And here is the chase, and it's starting now. We knew that action would come, Brian, and indeed the toil of guiding everyone that remains within the chase here up the mountain has been taken on by Jumbo-Visma. And of course this is for Jonas Vingegaard, who has had a gift of a day, really. Others have been doing the chasing on his behalf, and of course a couple up the road as well who can drop back and help out. It doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah, they've been forced into action a little bit, purely because Mauro Schmidt is sitting 57 seconds in front, 58. And they have to kind of put the pressure on. We know that Vingegaard has been looking good this week, but who can go with him when he goes? Groupama are just kind of taking up. That was Sam Omen, that's his job done. So who can go? And, you look behind, you can see Landa's there as well. So they'll be happy. When they started chasing a while back now, they'll be happy with the situation that they're in now. That was a very difficult chase. Pernsteiner did a good job. Luckily for them, they had confidence to help out a little bit, but yeah, it's going to happen on this climb, and the GC battle will commence, I would think, in the next kilometre.
Guy there with a selfie stick needs to think of another sport to follow. 29.7 kilometres from home. And Jonas Aguirre picks it up, and guess what? Vingegaard goes with him. Godot's on the back wheel of Landa here, and this is where it's all going to start happening. Mauro Schmidt, super brave, but on his own. That's a big old distance to have to take on. And Vingegaard just slams to the front and slams the jaw shut, presumably. Landa's been distanced here. This is absolutely fantastic. What a show of strength. And he finds, guess who? Attila Valter, Hungarian champion, who waits for him. He will empty himself now to give him a turn and make sure that this gap sticks, Brian. Here we go.
Yeah, I think that is telling us a lot now that Landa, if he had the legs in that previous climb when he said that maybe he can do something and close things down, well, maybe he's not on the day that he expected. Maybe he's having a slightly off day, and even slightly off, it makes a difference. But Mas is up for it, and this is perfect tactics all day long from Jumbo-Visma, putting two riders in the breakaway. They'll drop back, forcing the hand of the other team. It's nice to see that Jonas Aguirre instigated that, but Mas going with it, and Mas looks as if he could be fighting out the stage win.
Yeah, looks that way. And I mean, to a certain degree, a little bit of lack of pressure on him. He can afford to do a bit of following because Vingegaard is concerned. And possibly, partly due to this man going so well. Tillevelde drops back for Vingegaard. But here, Mauro Schmidt still pushing on. Mas joining the party. Meanwhile, out front, we've got Guerrero on the back wheel of Esteban Chavez. Now, 19 seconds. It's, in fact, less than that, 14. It looks even less than that, to be honest. I think this is about 7 or 8 seconds back. So Chavez still hasn't given up the ghost. Mauro Schmidt is just about to be tagged. And here we go. Those who you've had up the road, first of all, just empties the tank on Walter. He goes backwards, but Vingegaard has another man here with Kruijswijk, who's dropped back from the breakaway as well. Very, very good work. And only 26 seconds from Schmidt out front to, indeed, of course, Vingegaard, who's on the chase with Enric Mas and now Kruijswijk. Guerrero and Chavez in no man's land between those. So Schmidt still at the head of the race, but 2.2 kilometres to go. One feels that once we get over the crest here, this is the action point. It was clear at the beginning of the day, and Landa is being forced to drag everybody else up at the moment, and Izagiri, who started the move, is now tucked onto Landa's wheel, knowing that he is going to try and help himself here. Walter stays as almost as a disruptor, and joining the fun is Felix Gall, who's been very impressive during this race, and he's just tucked in here as well on the back wheel of Sergio Higuita, who won yesterday. He's been outstanding. Don't be surprised if Higuita wins today. It's one of those little conundrum of a rider, and he's been fantastic, and he'll be spurred on by the result yesterday.
Well, let's see if he's had a lot of confidence from yesterday. I was just about to say, Guerrero being in front with Enric Mas, this is going to be very difficult. I think Landa is doing a good job here. He knows he has to try and bring them back before the top of the climb, but Mas now deciding that he doesn't have the legs, but Vingegaard looking back puts pressure on Landa.
Had to be, didn't it? And as you were saying, they were just about to form a fighting duo alongside him. He said, this is a battle I'm not interested in because I set the rules in this race. And away he goes. And bridging over to Chavez, sitting in front of him with Mauro Schmidt. And this looks like Vingegaard all over it. Absolutely amazing. Well, he has been the outstanding talent of the race. We've had some great riders here, don't forget as well. When you look through the roster that started this race, it was more than impressive. And he looks behind now just to see what sort of danger, and trying to work out from the faces of those in Aria that exactly what he has to put into the rest of the day. He'll be holding for a moment, but it's only 1.7 kilometres before we get to the top. They have skipped up this, Brian.
They have. He's coming through now, and Mauro Schmidt just says no at that moment in time. He just has a look at Jonas Vingegaard and decides that, I can't go. Neither can Chavez, shake of the head. Nobody can go with him. So Vingegaard is going to come across the top of this climb on his own. It's who's going to chase behind. They might start looking at second, third, fourth and fifth places, but Vingegaard is in a league of his own now.
Let's see, Chavez decent descender, Mauro Schmidt likewise. If they can just hold on for 1,500 metres, they may have something, but Schmidt just sits flat back down in the saddle. My goodness. And Chavez is the man that's engaged in the chase, but is grimacing, and you can understand why. That must be 8-10 bike length. Vingegaard's feathering his effort. He's kind of looking behind and thinking, well, how much do I need to break them at this moment? And am I going to need something in the tank a little bit later on? There's a decision, Brian, from Movistar.
Yeah, he has to. Mas has to try. Guerrero's been in the break all day, but unfortunately he doesn't have the same form that Vingegaard does. Vingegaard's not going to wait for anybody. He's going to go alone. It's 28 kilometres to go. It's in his terrain, up and downhill. Don't worry about the kilometres still to go, but this man has shown in this race that definitely quality.
Jonas Vingegaard came into this race, and there were a few questions being asked of him after Paris-Nice. Well, he's answered just about everything. In fact, anything that's been thrown at him in this race, he has just had something to offer. And right now he's offering us a showboating exercise. I think this is magnificent. Just look at the gap that he is posting. He's still got 1.1 kilometres to go. Let's just check on what sort of incline. He's got the worst part of it just about to display itself to him. Once he gets over the top, there is one more climb to be taken. It's quite a distance, 27.8, but for the time being at least, there are very few. Where's Agita? Oh, there he is. Excuse me. I was suddenly thinking he hasn't suddenly driven into this gap, has he? It may happen. Let's see what happens on the descent, but Vingegaard's pretty handy descender himself, and he's got to get his time trial head on to finish off the job. 900 metres only before he gets to the crest. He's got a 21-second advantage. It's going to seem like a country mile when he gets over the top, Brian.
It will do, but I think the others, as soon as we come over the top, and if he comes over the top with about 30 seconds advantage, it's downhill and then up the third category climb, downhill, and then as they kind of drag into Ibar for the finish. But I think these riders will start looking at their individual places more than potentially chasing down Jonas Vingegaard.
This is the James Knox group, which also includes, of course, Simon Yates here, as you can see. So a lot of quality has found itself out of contention in this race. Average pace for the day, no surprise to see it in the middle 30s, but this is Lando, and he looks forlorn, to be honest. He's got a whole rack of talent on his back wheel for the time being. The most talented in this race is up the road, his nemesis. There, Jonas Aguirre just pulls to the centre, still with a great deal of pace. Look at the way the fans are standing on the side of the road. It accents the incline he's dealing with here. And they recognise a great rider, and so do we. That is a fabulous effort. Last 500 metres, and it does ease very briefly once he gets to the top. And then, of course, he'll be on that downhill run. It's forgivably, it is quite a non-technical descent, so we'll be able to really invest in it with some safety, I think. And with a 31-second gap, just slightly less than that now, I think he'll hold on to that kind of margin as he goes. Takes himself a bottle from the team, manages to pick out in this sea the right bottle. That's fantastic. Round he comes, he can round the next little right-hander. He should be descending. This will be the KOM point. PCS boys there just filming for us. They'll be watching us too. We'll give them a wave. Meanwhile, it's Aguirre. Looks like Landa's on the back of this group, is it? No, there he is in fourth wheel. Chavez involved as well. Likewise is Agita. Mass is there. Mauro Schmidt, who'd done so much early work, and Simon Yates had hoped to get something out of today, so starting to wrestle the bike. Still not quite at the peak. It actually comes in 100 metres time, according to my road book. We shall wait and see, but it should ease up now. Solid, Brian. This is brilliant.
Yeah, an incredible atmosphere. I know it's Saturday here in the Basque Country, but we've been banging on about this. They do love their cycling, but 33 seconds over the top onto the descent, and then up the third category climb, and then a small drag into town, and we'll see victory. I think these riders will be thinking about their positions in the general classification more than anything. I don't think Jonas Vingegaard is coming back now, and I have to applaud them for Jumbo-Visma for their tactics today. Spot on, but maybe a bit critical of Bahrain victorious. But I don't think any team could stop Jonas Vingegaard in this race, especially today. That's
Simon Yates, Felix Gall. They're just about to tag onto the back of this group, so it'll be a fighting force of 10 chasing down Chavez, and they've tagged Chavez of 11, chasing down Jonas Vingegaard. Chavez just taking a toot. This is Simon Yates just getting himself back in as well. This also includes James Knox, who's made a very good fist of that Category 1 test. So here we go. Gosh, 42 seconds is the advantage of Jonas Vingegaard at the crest. That is absolutely remarkable, Brian.
It's just, different league, isn't it, for Jonas Vingegaard. I don't think anybody could have done anything about it on a stage like today. Shortish stage, up and down, almost 3,400 metres of elevation. I think it's just a case of now this group will roll through. I think Enric Mas is maybe thinking about maybe this next climb, maybe trying to do something. Landa clearly maybe not on the best day, otherwise he'd have been here with Vingegaard like he was the other day. So I think it's now a battle for the podium positions behind second and third.
In which case this gap will extend even further. My goodness, he wants all the road to play with here, and you better give it to him, because you're just not sure how pacey this man. He's fully invested. Look at this. Last speed gun was 77 kilometres per hour, and it looks like there's been no respite at all. He's holding a margin of 44 seconds. I can't imagine that it will indeed close terribly much by the end. It is a non-technical run, this one. It'll take us to the foot of the next climb. It's at 17.6 kilometres. That's the foot of it, I should say. So he's got quite a bit of descending to go. 7 kilometres in total as they skirt alongside the valley here. And just look at this. We said it wasn't overly technical because it's a nice moderate road in terms of twists and turns. There'll be a few little chevroned corners for him, but it's a good surface and predictable. And that's the point, isn't it, Brian? Predictable means pacey.
Yep, it's a good descent. Just see the bike in front just doing some signals to just give a little bit of an indication of what he's seeing in front. But Jonas is absolutely flying. He flew up the last couple of kilometres of that climb. He's not letting up, and we wouldn't think that of him anyway, but I just think that behind the others are starting to think of their podium positions, especially Landa, looking as if he's not in the best day today. But, we have been kind of bigging him up. In this race especially, he has been going particularly well. True. But maybe a couple of days ago when he went and he came across to Jonas Vingegaard, not having that kind of same recovery or same level. But Vingegaard, different league at the moment.
Absolutely magnificent. Well, we're hearing from Jon Izagirre, who spoke at the top of the day. He's in the chasing group, by the way. A difficult control. What will you try? And how could you make it stick by the end? Well, I think it's extremely difficult to see what happens and to foresee, but it's clear that above all, the first climb will play a big role in the day, and from then on, it's going to be a chase that you've got to manage little by little on this stage. Well, it's been a good week for you, not starting with the champion, Miguel Indurain. It would have been a nice way to round off winning the stage and entering the podium or the general classification by the end of the week. Big Mig clearly in the house. He said, I'd like to do everything. Not winning the stage as well. Not starting, of course, with Miguel Indurain. He said in the question. It's been a good week. Well, let's see. 43 seconds is the gap, Brian, and he's holding station, and no surprise, nobody is more motivated, it seems, than Jonas Vingegaard.
Yeah, and he'll make a difference in the next climb as well. We do have a couple of riders interested in riding. Mas was, Sigita, buoyed by his performance yesterday, and if it does come back, which I don't think it will, but if it does come back, Higuita must be thinking, well, I could possibly win the sprint again. Looks like Jon Izagirre is prepared to ride. I think one of the riders missing out of this group, and he was struggling early on, is Sobrero, who was 5th place. So a lot of riders kind of moving up.
Whoa. Gosh, well, he's being... They're telling him to take it easy here. But try telling him to do anything, Brian. He does what he wants to do.
He's not thinking of easing up at all in this descent. No. He knows.
47 seconds then.
Yeah, he'll come down probably as quick as the group behind, and then he'll make more of a difference on this next category climb.
Well, he's got all the whistles, he's got all the vision as well here. He's got a bike which is, of course, a safety bike, which is indicating to him where the danger sections lie. Everyone else, of course, is getting a preview of it via their teams who are watching us. Hello, teams. 20.2 kilometres from home. GCN a gift to teams, Brian.
Yeah, if they can get signal in this part of the world as well. That's the only thing, having been there in the car. David Gaudu is starting to ride a little bit. I think just looking at the general classification, I mentioned one rider not being here is Matteo Sobrero of Jayco. I don't know if you've your favoured rider is in here as well.
I don't think so. Schelmos,
the young sitting rider in 3rd. So there's a few riders that are moving up. So David Gaudu moving up to third place in the general classification. Jon Izagirre moving up as well. So, but I think Enric Mas is the one that might be interested, because when you consider the seconds between Gaudu at 32 seconds and Enric Mas at 37 seconds, so it's still very tight for those remaining places. Landa still has a bit of a buffer, but I'm sure that these riders, especially Jon Izagirre, would love to finish on that podium.
I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility that David Gaudu could end up as runner-up in this race. Shelmo's not here. Landa looking like he's struggling. I know he's got to find 19 seconds, David Gaudu, but of course there's bonus seconds up for grabs as well at the end of the day. That might turn into be a factor likewise. So let's just say that David Gaudu finished second on the stage behind Jonas Vingegaard, then that would be to his advantage as well. But here we are. That was the climbs. Has Berenetxia managed to hold on?
Yep. He's one climb to go, a maximum of 3 points, and Berenetxia has won that competition. All he has to do is get to the finish.
Ha! Isn't that brilliant? I'm so pleased for him. He'll have the biggest grin to go with the biggest chin in cycling. That's fantastic.
Well, he took the only climb of the day in the first stage, and he's kept that jersey every day, and he only has to finish, and he'll be the only rider that has made it into that jersey.
Fantastic. And a unique owner since day one, and that's a rarity. We love that. 55 seconds is the gap. That is a monster margin. Now, he's going to start into his climb. In fact, he's just about to turn onto it. About 400 metres to go before he actually gets there. And this looks like it's turning into cat and mouse, Brian. It's exactly what you thought.
Yeah, they're looking at the podium positions. Yep. Landa wants to secure his in second place. And I think he's got enough buffer, but it's all about who's going to finish in third at the end of the day.
Let us see. Shelmos is absent. David Gaudu is there. Sobrero will battle him for it. I was just talking about Sobrero. He's absent as well. Beg your pardon. Yeah, it's going to be fascinating at the very last. Jon Izagirre is there, however, on 34 seconds. Gaudu on 32. 2 seconds between the pair of them. Here's your climb, Brian.
Yep, it's a third category climb, as you see, 5 kilometres in length. Not the hardest of climbs today, but at this stage in the race, it's going to hurt.
Well, it seems that anything hurts this man less than anybody else. I don't know. 17.3 kilometres from home. I was reading a really interesting article about differences between those that come from different parts of the world in terms of pain sustenance. And it seems those of an extremely pale skin complexion, especially, strangely, those who have ginger hair, apparently have a higher pain threshold than just about anybody else. No idea why that should be the case, but apparently it's something deeply genetic. And there's very few riders that are paler than this man, but yet he seems to be able to park his pain remarkably well. Mixed in with all the other talents that he has, he is unbeatable in so many different scenarios, Brian. He's involved in sprints occasionally. If it turns into a powerman sprint, he's there. Time trialling, he's there. It's just absolutely remarkable.
Right from the start, he's been interested in the bonus sprints, which he did. He took 2 seconds in day one. I was just looking at the general classification. Landa is 13 seconds behind. Then you've got from Gaudu to Higuita, there are 6 seconds. In between, you've got Izagirre and Mas, 6 and 4 seconds on the finishing line. So I said it over the top of the climb. These riders will be starting to think about where they're going to finish in the general classification at the end of the day, because the 6 and 4 seconds on the finishing line. The other riders that are in here, because Mauro Smid is still there, James Knox, they have to, and don't discount Mauro Smid into potentially maybe going over the top and on the descent. Brandon McNulty is also there, but Brandon McNulty needs, if he wants to kind of move up in the general classification, he needs to find a little bit of space. Felix Gall, one of the young riders of this race as well. So there's a few riders in here that can afford to kind of maybe look at, the bonuses at the end, but there's a few riders, if they want to move up onto the podium, have to try and attack.
It's a minute and 18. I wonder what the minute margin's going to be. It may well be you can start thinking about how he's going to celebrate. Usually he celebrates by just ringing home, speaking to the family.
He's been incredible this race, and you know, coming into this final stage, I think, you know, I was looking at how the tactic's going to be. He's going to need a televolter late in the race, but you know, his main trait is, you know, if things aren't going well and he's getting outnumbered, then all he has to do is go on the attack. I thought he would take maybe 1, 2, 3 riders with him, but this late in the day, he decided to go, and he wants to go alone. Well, now you look back at this group, Landa's still looking okay for the other podium position, but I think the attacks are starting to come now.
They are. It had to be, and Brandon McNulty decides that he wants to pick this up and shake his stick at it. Felix Gaulle is going to drive into it. Been so impressed by Felix Gaulle as well during this race, Brian. He's been incredibly lively.
He has, and McNulty started at 39 seconds. Well, I was just going through, you know, with the bonuses at the end. This is a play for the podium position. We all know that Jonas Vingegaard, barring any incident, is going to be the winner of this race, but this is forcing Landa now. Landa will have to chase this down, and he can't chase everything. 3 kilometres to the top for the leader. These guys are about 4 kilometres from the top, but Landa, not in a great day today, will have to be forced into doing a lot of the chasing here.
That looks like James Knox just tucked in behind Landa. That looks to me like Izagiri is just bouncing over his bike at the moment. David Gaudu is also there, just in the dark shirt, as you can see, the dark jersey, just in fourth wheel. A few others bouncing away here. Simon Yates is also part of that group. But this man, head and shoulders above everybody, it seems, and engaged in this climb, and that must be a nice sight as well, knowing that you're on a climb and you've got this kind of view. He can look back to see who's behind him, he can look ahead and see the road that is still to be dealt with, and meanwhile they start to kick on, and Enric Mas now in response to Gaulle and McNulty. Mas sitting as he does at 37 seconds. Last thing he wants is McNulty, who's at 39, only 2 seconds in arrears. He's thinking about those 2 seconds, of course, almost as a constant. This is fabulous battling, Brian, but it's only for minor places.
Yep, but it's worth it. A lot of these riders want to finish on the podium, second and third up for grabs, and with Brandon McNulty going up the road here with Felix Gaulle. Felix Gaulle started at 51 seconds, so but you can see that Mas is starting to come across now, and perfect opportunity for someone, if they've got the legs, of course, to go over the top.
That's Izagiri, who's just on his wheel, also kicking in here. Sergio Aguita, I think that is in wheel 3 of that quartet in the centre of your picture. And that is Zander, I believe, with the next quartet involved with Simon Yates and indeed Esteban Chavez, who's still there. Quick take of water, and this is going to swell into a sextet with 1 minute and 18 in arrears, and it is 2 kilometres to the top for Vingegaard, and these guys probably about 500-600 metres further behind him at the moment as it stands.
Well, Enric Mas has just helped Landa hold on to that second place there, because he's at the back of this string. He'll be hoping that nobody else goes on the attack, and just as I say it,
exactly, Jon Izagiri decides, I'm out of here. This is he's kind of hit himself a little bit on that last climb. He's on 34 seconds, and this deficit overall, this could be a bid for a podium place, and we'll see what number it turns out to be at the end. He's gone well in this race, won this race in the past, and at the moment he's got 4 or 5 bike lengths. The chase of the quartet, the right-hand side of your screen, Simon Yates has a look over his shoulder. The man from Jaco Alula wants to know if he's going to get any kind of assistance out of this, but it doesn't look like too much is being offered up. And McNulty gets tagged, and Felix Gaulle doesn't want to do all the work. Neither do any of them. It's been a very hard-fought race, this, Brian, and at any time you can find yourself reaching the end of your resources.
Yeah, and I think Gaudu is almost there as well. He's going to hang on to this second group, whether he can come back. starting to look at it, but this is really intriguing how everybody's thinking about where they're going to finish. Are they going to get onto the podium? I think it's always a case where Jonas Vingegaard going into this final stage was always going to coin one of your words, it's always going to be a conundrum. But when you've got this form, you decide what happens.
James Knox looks quite lively on the bike at the moment. This may well come down to your descending abilities, and if Mauro Schmidt can hold on, maybe you'll start to think about closing this gap. But you saw Jonas Vingegaard, the way he descended. It's quite technical, the one that is coming up, more so than the last descent. Just shy of a kilometre over the top. Vingegaard is ready to go home, quite frankly. I mean, in a good way, with the title. Nothing more sinister than that. Technical descent, Brian, which will be around 6 kilometres in length. So just about half the distance remaining once he gets over the top. 12.5 from home will be the peak, and 6.2 of flatter racing at the bottom of the descent. A few lumps and bumps, but he should be able to cope with all of that. What do you think the gap will be at the end?
Oh, I don't know, but I'm just loving this battling out for the other places. It's a shame Chavez been in the break all day, looked really strong, has just been dropped out the back. Simon Yates and David Godou have just made it on. It wouldn't surprise me in the last few hundred metres. Just watch out for, I think Mauro Schmidt is gone, so it's James Knox, but it wouldn't be surprised me if somebody's just kind of waiting to dive down this descent and take the chances, because this is a fascinating race. They're not even thinking about Jonas Vingegaard in front. This is where I'm going to finish at the end of the day. They already know that 2 riders in the top 10 aren't there, so they're all moving up, but there is still room for a bit of kind of shuffle room. Got to remember the 6 and 4 seconds on the finishing line as well, but this is really where the real race is. The other race is gone. There he is. He's going to go over the top and take victory in this year's Basque Country, but it's where the others are going to finish at the end of the day.
Minute and 17 he's got. It'll probably be a bit more by the time he gets to the bottom of this descent. And it's Jonas Aguirre that kicks on, and Landa is in the pocket by the looks of things, in the aero pocket. He's going to drive over to him. Higuita's on the chase as well. There's the KOM point finally, and at the descent point it is, and here we go. Vingegaard wants to drive it home. He will have some insurance here that should carry him over the last sort of 6 kilometres or so. Can't take too much for granted, and we'll find out how much he can take for granted by the time they get to the end. They all keep attacking, Brian, but they're marked out by each other at the moment. This is a real phalanx of talent we've got right now. They're all marking each other out.
They are. Good place to go when this happens, if MD's going to take that advantage, because a few hundred metres of climbing and then on the descent. But Landa just kind of holding on at the moment for this third place. He's the only person with a bit of a buffer. There's only a handful of seconds between a lot of these riders.
Come on then. Who's got what it takes on this descent?
Who's this coming up? Is this Mauro Schmidt coming up at the back here?
Well, Chavez is still doggedly determined. You'll see the Colombian champions jersey just round it. Yeah, and he's got Schmidt on his wheel.
Just watch him in the descent.
I was just about to say, that's not a guy you want to bring to a descent. Here we are now then, shaking of the head side to side, Mauro Schmidt, only 23 years of age. Watch him go. It's like he lights up it's like an English electric lightning by the time he lights the afterburners. He will be away down this slope. All he had to do was get to the crest. Chavez has helped him in that regard. Also the knocking off by everybody else. Look, it's gone out to 1 minute and 27 now to Vingegaard. Here's the descent. Got to gather himself, Schmidt, for a moment, and then just wait for him to start picking them off one by one. He's right at the back of this group at the moment. This is going to be fascinating. 11 kilometres from home, he's got about a 6 kilometre descent to find his legs and have a go. I imagine whatever he does here, they'll probably tag him on the run for home. But nonetheless, Vingegaard has gone. We're almost not offering him up too much concern at the moment, because it's all about what's going to happen here, Brian.
It is. This is where the race is for the other podium positions, and where you're going to finish in the top 10. I think the producer has realised that as well. So we'll see a little less of Vingegaard in front, and let's see what's going to happen here.
McNulty picks up. He wants to get the drive straight on his wheel as Izagiri getting in there as well. Of course, no room for a question mark at all. Godot just drifts into it. Igita's on the case as well. Smith's holding on at the moment, hasn't quite lit up those afterburners for the time being. And here we go. The motorcycle's going to have a job keeping away from them, to be honest. It's reasonably technical, twisty. You can read into that. And the last thing you need to do is graze your elbow on that concrete stanchion on the inside and get spat out the other side. Who's got what it takes? They all want to save something for the sprint at the end by the looks of things, except for Knox, who picks it up and says, all right, if you don't want it, I want it. And he comes to the front. This is fabulous. That's an attempt just to shake a few off his back wheel. And the twists and turns of this day still not decided from this chase group.
It could be a bit of a lottery here, Carlton, because everybody's kind of chasing each other and nobody's giving an inch. And, you know, you could attack 10 times in the last 10 kilometres here and come away with nothing. You could attack once and it could put you on the podium.
Well, once they bounce into it, by the way, we will have a little pickup of about 4%, and then it's a gnarly sort of climb all the way to the line. It's a drag more than anything else, but it is inexorably
it's not going to be a drag today.
Upper Valley Road. No, it's not. Here we are then. They'll disappear from view on occasion as they go round these headlands. It's far twistier, Brian, than the last descent, and this is what we want. Minute and 20. Staying safe out front, Vingegaard well within himself. No guide out ahead of him this time, motorcycle-wise, so the security bike has now gone. Double checks into this corner, sees the chevrons. The danger is that if you get into a corner that tightens, so you set yourself on an arc, and then the arc basically just becomes tighter and catches you out. At the moment, it's catch me if you can from Vingegaard.
Yeah, the chevrons and the arrows and things like that are helping the riders on this descent. You can just see them, plenty of them, just as a kind of bit of a warning signal as well. But yeah, I'm more interested in the challenges behind, because we'll come off this descent onto the main road. It's a bit of a main road all the way in towards the finish. But as you say, there are a couple of kick-ups, but the race behind is going to be the intriguing one.
That's a carousel, isn't it? If you're a Nürburgring fan. Yeah, they're going to come round it themselves in a short while, and the camera hooks back just to pick up that action, and here we go. They're folding over each other. Still no move from Schmidt at the moment, but it's time to invest. I don't think that's Chavez on the front. Not just yet. No, it's James Knox, I think, that's going on full attack mode here. Well, they've got a motorcycle in front of them. It is, as we get downstairs, and we're just about to come into that carousel section that these guys are going to enjoy or endure. And Landa comes through. That's a statement, Brian. I like that. Whoa! Double checks into the corner. Didn't want to shoulder the rubble at the side of the road, or indeed become part of it. Here we go. Back out front, and it's Vingegaard again with another testy corner. Fabulous action here. Double phaser into the next left-hander, into an arboreal arch here. He's just gone away from everybody else. I mean, 7.1 kilometres from home, and the day and the race are his. He's heading for his third stage win of this race, something he has dominated. Just been a joy to watch him and watch an athlete at the top of his game, Brian.
Yeah, whether it's the top, he definitely looked head and shoulders above everybody else. He might say in his interview at the finish, yeah, it was good, I've just got a little bit to go heading towards the Tour de France, but I think I said right from the start
that was a good impersonation, by the way.
Yeah, he's here to win this race and show a bit of kind of dominance. I think he didn't have to win Paris-Nice as the Tour de France champion from last year, but I think it's a bit of a statement, and he had to come here and put in a bit of a statement performance, and I think he's gone above and beyond.
I do too. Landa as well wants to, I think, remind everyone that he could have been contending for the title here. In fact, he has been. It's been great to see him getting back to his best. He's leading them down here, Landa. I think now we'll get a heads-up view. This was a sketchy moment. That little barrier guarding the street furniture in the centre, and it's at that point you might end up in the canal. It is Landa that's leading the chase. Good for him as well. Already sort of climbing for home is Jonas Vingegaard. And it's going to be a question of a sprint at the very end, unless Landa can hold this modest margin all the way for the next 5 or so kilometres. He's going to have company. Of course he is. And with the bonus seconds, Brian, there's potential for some movement behind, which is why it's so lively here.
Yep, and it'll continue all the way to the finish. I'm just thinking that Mauro Smith is perfectly poised. Came off that descent. Now he hasn't done anything. He's kind of hanging on the back of this group, and if there's any
ልብስ ካልሆነ ይመስለኝ እስከ ፍትህ መኻብሎ ካልሆነ ልብስ ታዲያ ይቆም
Det går inte att göra något åt den här killen.
Comfortably said, look, I'm not going to catch Vingegaard, and I'm certainly not going to chase him in, so do what you like. And so suddenly the pressure is on those who are looking for that third place on the podium, and this is a big roll of the dice for this man. Loving this. James Knox, 47 seconds down. If he can get a 10-second margin plus some bonuses, he will be on the podium. Fabulous. 1,600 metres only before we get to the line. I think a few of these guys are watching a podium place disappear from their grasp, Brian.
Well, I tell you what, having a teammate here in Mauro Mid is helping as well. He's just policing everything. He's jumping on everything. He jumped on Simon Yates there. He's just doing a terrific job for James Knox. It looks as if he's got around about that kind of 10, 12 seconds at the moment. It's an all-out effort all the way to the line. This is the last drag up here, and then it'll be downhill or kind of flattish all the way in towards the finish.
Here we go then. 1,200 metres. Last turn comes a little bit late, but with a plain view of it. And this is Vingegaard in charge of his own destiny. Brilliance at work. It's terrific to see. Giving time to send some love back home as well, Brian, to the family. How nice is that?
Yeah, he's conscious all the time, isn't he? Of his family back home.
Certainly is. And they'll be blowing kisses back at the TV as well, I am certain. 900 metres to go, less than that now, as this man will just bring home what has been a spectacular drive for the title. Ever in control of his team, and indeed the strategy of everyone else. It didn't matter what your strategy was, if Vingegaard is in the frame of mind to impose himself, which he has been in this race, in every single quarter. It's been a pleasure to watch him. Meanwhile, likewise, the pleasure has been in watching this chase. Now it's just within margin for a few of them. As you can see, he's got a 7-second advantage at the moment, James Knox. That's in fact, is that over Chavez? I beg your pardon, yeah. So we'll see what...
He needs 28 seconds to go into second place.
Here is Jonas Vingegaard. He's going to take a turn, 300 metres. It's a left-hander right now to open up the hoarded section, and the line beckons to fate this man. And what a party it has been for him. Jonas Vingegaard came to this race carrying just a little bit of modest question marks around his form, but he has absolutely shown that he is on the very best of form at the moment. And he's not somebody who loses that form easily either. Beware everybody who comes against him. Jonas Vingegaard has just won the Tour of the Basque Country. Congratulations to him. And it's now a question of margin, and this clock is going to be oh so important. 6 bonus seconds up for grabs. 10 bonus seconds have just gone the way of Vingegaard, so he's busy celebrating. Job done for him. The golden jersey belongs to him, the 62nd edition of the Basque Country. And now, what about this? James Knox is coming in. He's going to get 6 bonus seconds, and then we'll start the maths rolling. Now, is it going to be enough? He knows it's crucial. They'll be screaming at him over the radio as well, Brian, just to keep on going. Don't think about the line, think beyond the line, power over it, and maybe, oh, they're on his case. Higuita's come up to close this gap as well. Heartbreaking mode he is on, and Izagirre's going to come across the line. Knox does it. Izagirre gets the 4 bonus seconds. Manu McNulty misses out on the bonuses, and we will start the count back right now. All hail Esteban Chavez, who crosses the line now. Thought about a stage victory today. It's going to come to him this season, you can be sure of that. It was lovely to see him just so spirited and up for it after, of course, winning the National Road Race Championships at the beginning of the season, the Colombian. Meanwhile, our Hungarian champion, who has done so much work for Vingegaard, comes to the line, celebrates in his own way, Brian, because he was very much part of that victory for Vingegaard.
He has been all week, so hat off to the way that the team have ridden. They were depleted in numbers at times, but when you got a rider that can ride like 10 men, that's all you need. Landa, I have to say, has done well this week as well. Was looking vulnerable today. I think James Knox's performance there will put him into the top 10, but he came so close to that podium place, and you could see that he gave it everything to try and get that.
Here is Vingegaard, just avoiding the air sausages at the side of the road. And indeed, just pondering what he's achieved. Well, so much in a young career for this man. Jonas Vingegaard. Just brilliant. 26 years of age now. I still think of him as a youngster. But I guess it's because he's crammed so much into his career, Brian, and so much more to come.
Yeah, I can still remember it was at Jabal Jay's when he won in the UAE Tour. You know, he was just starting out pretty much in his career. As everybody probably knows, he worked in a fish factory only a matter of 5-6 years ago. I was talking to Brian Home about it, that he was getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and it's incredible where he's come from. James Knox put in a big display this week as well. I think Soudal Quickstep just coming up a little bit short at times. They've had an incredible Basque Tour, just not getting that win, but getting plenty of podium positions. And Higuita, buoyed by his win yesterday, just winning the sprint behind. Gaudu is there, and he just, I think, saves the day and gets that podium position. So it will be Vingegaard, Landa and David Gaudu.
Well, we'll have the podium for you in a short while. There is Landa just crossing the line, giving a big blow of the cheeks, Louis Armstrong styly, but it's not going to be blowing his trumpet today, I'm afraid. Vingegaard takes the day. James Knox coming home in second place. Jon Izagirre leading a quality pack on 49 seconds. Only 2 seconds was the margin that James Knox found in the end. Gita was concerned about it, so was Gaudu, so was Izagirre, just about everyone within this group. But as you've heard from Brian, Gaudu, it looks like, has taken third place behind, of course, Landa. We'll work it out in a moment.
No, I think Jon Izagirre has moved up.
We'll see. It's so tight, those in the wake of Jonas Vingegaard, but he was just so far ahead of everybody, Brian.
Yeah, I think with that third place there with Jon Izagirre, I think he takes the 4 bonus seconds, moves him into third place.
Wow. We'll get confirmation of all of that for you in just a few moments' time. Thank you, by the way, for your company. It's been a joy to have you. Here we are. Izagirre, it is, by a margin of 2 seconds over David Gaudu. It was worth fighting for those bonuses, wasn't it? Higuita was hoping for a top 5, just missed out. Was complaining at the end. Vingegaard takes it by a margin of 1 minute and 12 from Landa. Jon Izagirre rounds out the podium. Gaudu, Mas, Higuita, Brennan McNulty in 7th. James Knox, Simon Yates, Felix Gall. What a race, and what a winner, and what a margin at the end. In view of the fact that there was no time trial here, had to do it all on the ground that never settles, it seems, in this part of the world. We're either going up or down, and Vingegaard's on the up, Brian.
He is. He started the season with a win. Had to eat a bit of humble pie in Paris-Nice, but he looks super strong in the Basque Country and sends out the message.
This is the chase. Second place for Knox and Izagirre, with those last bonus seconds moving up into third place. Brandon McNulty would finish this race in 4th on the same time. In fact, this is our finishing times, I beg your pardon. But, yeah, amazing. What a great race. And thank you so much for your company. It's been a pleasure from myself, Carlton Kirby, and from Brian Smith. We shall see those of you who are leaving now very soon, hopefully. Landa crosses the line. He would have loved to have won this race, but as Brian was saying, he's really found himself here. The desire as well has been great to see. Really driven, I think, and for that we can be thankful, because when Landa's on his best form, then you get the best races. Well, the best man has won here, and that man is Jonas Vingegaard. Don't forget, it's Paris-Roubaix weekend. Women's race today, men's race tomorrow. It may just be a lump of rock, but it means so much. Winning the cobble. Men's race live tomorrow. All 256.6 kilometres plus the pre-show and the post-race show, don't forget. Coverage starts at 09:30 in the United Kingdom, 10:30 Central European Time. Hell of the North. Roubaix, the velodrome, and victory awaits somebody. Jonas Vingegaard is the champion of the 60-second Tour of the Basque Country. When he's at his best, then it's just magnificent, and it turned out to be so here. Great race, great champion. Those of you on digital, we were waiting for the interviews and of course the jerseys. Everyone else, enjoy your Easter weekend. A big one of course with Paris-Roubaix for the men tomorrow. We won't do any spoilers on the women's race, which was today.
دمناتنا قصة عايزة فنيوم جينا من البات مزدلو سومن بعد بينام نريان قوم مزدلو سومن بعد بينام نريان قوم تسفر قبر ثانك يو يا حوات نايلو معانتي ثانك يو يا حوات نايلو معانتي زنبر فاينال صوتايو زمزدلو لغزي خا تسفر قبر صبقوتي كم زوانا خوينجين أبز زلنا زوانا خوينجين أبز زلنا